Welcome to this week's installment in our Football Officials video training series. We're studying the National Federation of High School Rules and five-man mechanics. Technical advisors are Greg Downham, Dax Hill, and George Demetrio. Video technical assistance provided by Jim Woods and Sam Porter. I'm your host, Todd Allen, the Executive Director of the Arkansas Association of High School Officials. Visit our website at AAHSO.com. We're helping good officials get better. Training sponsored by the Reading Study Guide to the NFHS Football Rules. The Reading Study Guide. When you're through learning, you're through. Go. All right, first play we're going to talk about, got this receiver in the slot here highlighted. You're going to want to keep your eye on him through the down as this play goes on. But before we get to talking about this play, let's just talk about pass interference in general. First of all, where do you find the rule? It's in 7.5.10, 7.5.11. Offensive and defensive passing restrictions they're very, very different. The particular restrictions, much more strict for the offense because obviously they know what they're going to do. For defense, the restriction doesn't start until the ball is actually thrown. So they can block downfield where the offense is prohibited if we have the elements of pass interference in place. That's a legal forward pass that goes beyond the line of scrimmage. So philosophically, how do we approach that? And this play is a great example because the ball is in the air when the contact by the defense occurs, but it's clearly away from where the quarterback's throwing the ball. So on this play, take a look at it here. You see the action right there, wham. Now, we don't want this called pass interference. It meets the definition of by the rule, but we don't want the rules to get in the way of the game. This has no effect on the play. So we can go to our advantage, disadvantage acronym that we talk about so much in the National Federation of High School Rules, perfectly accepted by the Federation as being part of the whole thing that the officials must consider, the totality of the circumstance, if you will, before you throw a flag on a play like this, because this had no impact on the play. We do not want pass interference thrown here, and we just got this one camera angle to look at, but this is a great play to look at and to talk about, and talk about again when you have the potential for defensive pass interference. You have a flag on the ground and the contact's way away from where the ball is thrown. This is a great opportunity to get together as a crew and work, and this crew did a great job. They didn't throw the flag here, and we got a touchdown, but had we thrown a flag for potential defensive pass interference, we could have all gotten together here and discussed this and picked up the flag and saved us from interfering with the game, because this potential foul had absolutely no effect on the play. This is a great defensive play here, properly officiated as no foul for defensive pass interference. Kick plays, we've already talked about this a couple of times, but you know, here it comes jumping out at us again. I want to take a look at this play here involving blocks in the back and who's looking at whom, and tough play here to work, and I know that, especially with five guys, but we got to keep working at this, so we got to keep talking about it, right? I want to show you these guys in chase mode here, blocks in the back. We'll go through this kind of quickly because we've already spent a great deal of time on it this year, but recognizing player in chase mode, pretty critical, right? So we recognize him in chase mode clearly right off the bat, and we'll get several looks here at different players in chase mode and recognize when there's potential for blocks in the back. As this ball carrier moves to the outside, boom, look at here. Potential for block in the back, potential for blocks in the back, and who's looking at this? Referee, don't get caught staring at the ball carrier. You need to be looking through him at this block. Same thing here. This is the umpire. You know, who are you looking at? Don't get caught up looking at the ball carrier. Locate and find these players that are in chase mode. We'll get a couple more here too. Now this guy had a head up block, so he's all right. But this guy's still in chase mode. This play continues to develop. Now look at this block right here, guys. Clearly in chase mode. This guy's suspect. This guy's kind of just out in space, as well as these players are out of the play. We got to keep the play boxed in though. Figure out who's looking at what here. This is a pretty good play to take a look at because there's so many things that jump out here at me. Bam! There's contact right there. That's a block in the back. And it happens as the ball carrier is going down, but it doesn't matter. It's still a block in the back. These are safety issues, and we get this call right here. Keep your eye on this official right here as he's focused in. Let me run it back just a little bit here. And just keep your eye on that official. So he gets up the field and sees blocks that are occurring up the field, and boom, there's a block in the back, and there's the flag for a block in the back. Give it to you one time at full speed here. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. What do you say? All the way back to the beginning here and take a look at this. It's close enough. Full speed. Watch these players practice identifying players that are in chase mode. These things happen very, very fast. Boom. There's a block right there in the back. We didn't talk about the first time through. Back that up just a little bit. Shoves him right there. Is that enough for a foul? Yes, it is. The player doesn't go to the ground, but it's still a block in the back. These are safety issues, so we're going to get these fouls. From chase mode, you get no leeway. Boom, 2 blocks in the back on one play. We get one over here, and we miss one out here in the middle of the field. So we got to talk about who's looking at who in this. We see we got one official here. The problem with him is he's focused way across the field on the ball carrier, and obviously you got to track forward progress, but forward progress needs to come from down here. So you've got to be more focused in this area of the field as we're into phase 2, where the secondary blocks are, and you have to know where these officials down the field are picking up primary blocks in their area, because this area, although it's far away from you in phase 2, this has to be from here or from up the field here to get these blocks. And I think for this, for this official right here, this view inside at this potential block just opens right up for you. I think you've got a real good shot at catching this if you're looking in the right area. But if you get too caught up in looking at the ball carrier, that you're not focusing on your primary responsibility, which is, obviously is just this big area out here in the middle of the field where we're kind of unprotected. But this stuff all opens up to you very, very easily. So this is a great play to talk about in pregame, as all of these plays are. These kick plays are very, very good material to talk about how they develop, how you go from phase to phase, and who's looking at who, so we can do a better job of covering these plays and picking up these potential fouls for blocks in the back, but for all fouls that occur on these very, very difficult plays. And obviously we're talking about scrimmage kick or free kick plays. Here's a play I wanted to show you, because we get a lot of plays from coaches, and they have questions and want to know what we called and why we called it, and philosophically how we're approaching this and exactly what the rules say. And that's great when we do that, because we're able to really bridge a lot of the communication gaps that we have with the coaches when we show them exactly what we're looking at. But this is one of those plays where we don't know what we're looking at. So we're trying to come up with an explanation for the coaches about how we officiated this play, and look how challenging coming up with an answer can be. Let's take a look at this play, run it through one time, and then we'll go back and take a look at it. The head linesman at the top of the screen here is going to throw a flag into an area where there's a bunch of players, and then we stop the clock. That's the whole play. So now what we've got to do is take a look at this official and try to determine exactly what he may or may not have been looking at. We've got twin receivers on his side, so he's going to have some pass coverage responsibility. The back judge should be working this inside receiver, so this should be the head linesman's key. And he's also going to be, as the quarterback takes the ball, you'll see here where we saw the play just a while ago, the quarterback runs out here into the flat, so we have a potential for a running play. So the line judge, or the correction here, the head linesman appears to be looking inside at some potential block, and what we think here is that we're ruling on a potential hold. So let's take a look at this play and break it down and see what we can possibly have here. First of all, we can take these two players out of the equation, because neither one of these players go downfield and engage. As we look at this play run through here, neither one of these players are going to engage with anyone, and the flag comes in toward the middle of the field. So these two guys are definitely out. They are not suspect for anything. So now let's take a look at, we know these two players are not really suspect. Let's take a look at their action here and see if there's anything about them that appears to be suspect initially. So flags out. Neither one of those players are really engaged in anybody. So we can eliminate these two players. and we've already eliminated these 2 players. So we're dwindling things down here. Now we look at this player here who he just goes out into the flat. So this player right here does nothing. So we can eliminate him. So we've got to be talking about one of these 2 players. So let me back this play up just a little bit further here so we can see exactly who these 2 players, who their keys are. This is the center, this is the guard, and this is the tackle. So who's looking at him? Now we know that these 3 players, because this is the left guard. Guard, center, guard. We know those belong to this man. So we can leave those guys alone. And this tackle belongs to the referee. This quarterback belongs to the referee. So we can leave those 2 players alone, but we look at what happens here. Let's keep our eye on this player right here. And we know this is not the head linesman's key. But let's take a look at the action and what he does in this play. We'll look at it in slow motion. He fires off, gets head up. His feet work is really, really good. He's right in front of the player and he's driving him up the field. Footwork, very, very good. He goes about 3 yards and stops. So he's not an IDP, not ineligible downfield either, because he was engaged in contact, and as soon as he disengaged, he just stops. He just stops and does nothing. So we can't have IDP. Now let's take a look at this guard right here. The tackle's block was really, really good. So we'll take a look at the guard play here. And he fires out and just kind of rocks back and gets beat to the outside. Now, he could have been, and then he passes it off. Now, I couldn't see his technique, but, you know, let's just take it for granted that he has poor technique. Let's say he's got a big old handful of this defensive lineman's jersey. So now that we've got poor technique and the feet are beat, he's suspect, right? His play is suspect, but we know this is also the umpire's key. So let's watch this in fast motion. Did the defensive player give us any sign of a material restriction? Even if he's being held? Even if the technique is wrong, is there any sign at all that he's being materially restricted? That's a pretty heavy burden, material restriction. What exactly does that mean? That means that what we want to see, where you need to focus as an official on this play, first of all, it's not your key. So you better be 110% right when you throw a flag for someone else's key. But when the feet get beat and he has poor technique, let's say he's got a big old handful of this jersey, now what you gotta do is focus on the defender's shoulders. And he needs to give us an overt act that he's being materially restricted. And what we need is one shoulder needs to dip really, really bad. Or he needs to be hobbling like he's being held back, showing us something really, really obvious that he's being materially restricted. Materially restricted. So let's look at this play one more time. Fast motion, then I want to back it up and show it to you again in slow motion. There's absolutely no sign there of a material restriction. Are we on the same page? I mean, he just doesn't give us anything. This is not a foul for offensive holding. He may have had a big old handful of jersey. That's a Southern term, big old handful. And he may have been, his feet may have been beat. All the key signs may have been there for offensive holding, except we were missing the most important element, and that's a material restriction. We have to have that material restriction to have a foul, and it needs to show up on video because that's the way we evaluate our performance, both as evaluators and as game officials watching ourselves on video. It's pretty important, and you gotta adapt the way you officiate so that when you watch yourself on video, these fouls jump out at you. They need to be big, and they need to have material restriction, obviously, before we call a foul on someone else's key. All right, that's it for this week. I know that I promised you guys that we were going to do more on the all but one principle in this week's training video, and unfortunately, because of my real job piling up and I had to travel all week, I just wasn't able to put the plays together exactly the way I wanted them to, so that we could talk in more depth about the all but one principle. It's really, really important, so I want that presentation to be exactly right before we get it. So hopefully next week things are looking a little bit better. Maybe we can get to that next week. This week, focus on working together as a team, especially in penalty enforcement. Talk about material restriction in your pregame. Work together as a crew when you have those holding fouls that, you know, especially if you pick up on somebody else's key, you need to have a conversation. And if somebody throws a flag on your key and you know what happened, you need to get out there and let them know, hey, what did you see? Because that's my key. And let me tell you what happened. You know, if you can save your teammate from making a mistake, that's what teamwork's about. That's why we have multiple angles. So work together, get the plays right. Ultimately, that's how we'll be evaluated. In the end, do we get the play right? Hope you have a great week. Love to see you on the field soon. If you have a question or comment for me, here's my email address, toddallen65@mac.com. Until next week, thanks for checking out the video.